Clement of Rome is a first-century convert to Christianity who was taught by the apostles. He became an early church leader after the martyrdoms of both Paul and Peter, and Clement of Rome was also known as the Bishop of Rome. There's also a chance that Clement is found in the Bible. Philippians 4:3 mentions someone named Clement, and it's very possible that that person is Clement of Rome. Not much is known about the life of Clement, but he's most famously known for his letter to the church in Corinth, known as First Clement. It is also possibly the earliest document that we have in Christianity outside of the New Testament. This document is truly inspiring. So Clement was born around 35 AD, which is around the time of the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It seems from his writings that we know that Clement knew some of the apostles personally and was greatly influenced by their teaching. Irenaeus of Lyons, in his Against Heresies, writes this: "This man, Clement of Rome, as he had seen the blessed apostles and had been conversant with them, might be said to have the preaching of the apostles still echoing in his ears and their traditions before his eyes." Also, in Roman Catholic tradition, Clement is known as the fourth pope, obviously with Peter being the first pope. But in truth, there really isn't a lot known about Clement of Rome besides his authorship of First Clement. Paul wrote not just one, but two letters to the church in Corinth that we find in our Bibles that dealt with the church in Corinth's many issues. These problems continued to occur after the life and death of Paul. The church in Corinth had removed some of its leaders that the apostles had set up, so Clement sent them a letter that tried to correct the church in Corinth. This letter also attempted to reconcile them, renew their faith, and restate Christian doctrine from the apostles in a letter that is now known as First Clement. It is perhaps the most important writing among the early church fathers, as Clement encourages the young men to stop the disruption of the church and urge the Corinthians to pray for those who had fallen into sin, that they might find humility and submit to God. Clement also advocated in his writing that division in the church was caused by envy, as he appealed to numerous biblical examples, such as the stories of Cain and Abel and David and Saul. Clement in First Clement also emphasizes the importance of following God rather than following factions. In the middle of his letter, Clement emphasized that we are saved by our faith, not by our works, though we will be rewarded for our good works. Clement wraps up this letter by giving an emphasis on loving one another and calls for the Christians in Corinth to obey the words of the apostles. In Clement's work, we can see that the early church struggled with something that many of us do as well: pride. Because of our pride, we can be jealous of other believers, as Clement wrote that Peter and Paul were persecuted and killed because of other people's envy. In Clement's work, we also get insight into the early church. Clement writes about how Christians had given themselves up as slaves for one another so that others could receive food. Yeah, you heard me right. This is what he wrote. "We know many among ourselves who have given themselves up to bonds in order that they might ransom others. Many, too, have surrendered themselves to slavery, that with the price which they receive for themselves, they might provide food for others." First Clement is a very important work in the early church, and it was often read alongside Scripture, though the early church didn't view First Clement as literally Scripture. There's also a book called Second Clement, but just about every person out there in scholarship believes that Clement did not write Second Clement. So according to traditions, Clement died a martyr's death, but from a historical perspective, it's really hard to know how Clement died. Nevertheless, Clement's writing is an inspiring call to love others and to give your obedience to Christ. So I'm Zach. This is Adherent Apologetics and Christian History, and I'll see you next time. Be sure to like, subscribe, and if you could support us on Patreon, that would be great. But, it's never required. I'll see you next time.